This is Adnan Baranbo, and get ready for another new amazing episode of AVIAPRENEURS podcast with my guest today, the founder and the president of Icarus Jet, a charter brokerage company who's based in Dallas in the USA with branches in UK, UAE, and Kenya. Good day, Mr. Kevin Singh.
Thank you so much for having me, Dr. Rambo. It is an incredible opportunity presented by you to me. And I read up as much as I could, and I am ready for this interview. It is just fascinating. Thank you.
It's a great pleasure and honor to have you here, and thank you for your nice words. So, Kevin, you have more than 25 years of experience in the aviation industry. You are a pilot, a chief pilot, an aviator, an instructor, and aviapreneur. You're from the US and you're originally from India. Today, we're gonna talk together about the business aircraft charter brokerage industry. And who's better than yourself to talk with me about this topic? So thank you for joining me today.
Absolutely.
So Kevin, I'm gonna start with Icarus Jet. You have established this business 12 years ago. The company is active in many areas in the business aviation industry: charter brokerage, aircraft management, and trip support. This industry is very interesting. It has experienced remarkable growth in the last years, but the last 2 years were almost the best. Do you see that growth continuing in the future?
Dr. Bambo, I see an exponential growth, not just a steady growth of jet charter. For the first time in the history of corporate aviation, we have gone from jet charter being a want for the rich and the famous and the celebrities to a need for the ones that have money and health issues and COVID caused the environment where you were safer traveling with your family members who were tested or in an airplane without anybody else. And private jet charters provided that opportunity. And it gave the industry a much needed exposure, but on the right side of the notoriety. You know, if you look at jet charter, it was always some guy with a lot of money and dodgy money and people eating drinking champagne and caviar and just having a great time, to where, oh my God, look, we can actually save lives. We can actually get a better need from a jet charter than just going out there and going to Vegas or other places just to have fun. So I see an exponential growth for the next 5 years or more. And I hope that this prophecy is true. We will see. We'll see what happens with the industry.
Definitely. I want to focus here on the role of the business aircraft charter broker. In your opinion, what value does the broker provide to the client, to the passengers, so they continue working with the broker rather than bypassing him and going to work with the aircraft operator directly?
You know, Dr. Rambo, whenever we get a client that comes to us, they have one question in mind. They don't know anything about jet charter industry. They have no idea. They're looking for education. They're not looking for, let's see, the most cost-effective charter or where they could spend a lot of money and all those things. They're just looking to understand, how does this thing work? And what we end up doing as a broker more often than not is educating a client that why should you not go to Aspen at a certain time, or why should you take a certain airplane because it's safer, or why should you not travel in a helicopter in a certain city. So things of that nature that we do, where we educate the client rather than trying to sell them something very luxurious and trying to connect them with things that they don't understand. So over and over again, I have seen the broker can do two things. He can educate the client, or she can educate the client, or keep the client safe. How does the client know what kind of airplane they're getting in? How do they know about this operator? They have no idea. If you were to Google a jet charter out of Dubai, you can literally see how many companies pull up on the very first page. But how do you go about then? How do you select an airplane as a client? Do you just go out there and select an airplane on the basis of reviews, on the basis of the fact that this is the cheapest? Or you don't have much to go about and analyze. But if you were to use a broker, what I can tell you is, hey, this is Argus approved or Vibrant approved, or this company is well known and they're always on time, a greatest pilot, greatest training environment. They've always kept their promise. And so you add the credibility to a charter operator. And I think that's what a broker's job is. It is to educate the industry, educate your client, and bridge the gap.
So the broker, as you mentioned, is not actually just a broker. He's a consultant, a trusted advisor.
Absolutely. That is all you're doing, is you're advising your clients. You're not making the decision on their behalf. You're helping them make a decision. I'll give you an example. Somebody wanted to go from Dubai to Maldives, and they were there for 5 days. And they're like, all right, give us a quote. And every quote that we sent them was a double round trip, because nobody would leave their airplane during the pandemic in Maldives, especially a mid-size or a heavy jet in the Maldives for 5 days and lock it up and just leave the airplane there and only fly 8 hours. So we had to tell them that it's better to take Emirates first class than to go out there and pay 100,000 plus for an 8-hour flight. And they agreed with us. We did not make any money, but we were able to educate the client and save them money and give them more comfort, safety, and security. So that's the purpose of a broker, I think.
Very interesting. I'm gonna go and discuss with you now what we recently witnessed. There are so many aircraft charter booking platforms emerging every now and then all over the world. Some of these platforms actually help the operators in their job, like AVIAPRENEURS, while many others are promising to connect the passenger directly to the aircraft operator, trying to bypass the job of the operator. This phenomena over the internet is known as disintermediation. Do you see this as a threat for the future job of the aircraft charter broker?
Actually, no. I'm very glad that these apps and I'm not even going to call it artificial intelligence. I'm just going to leave it out there as an algorithm that they're using and producing to connect the client directly to the operator. And it's actually helping the brokers, because what is happening is, all right, let's say you have one local operator, right? And they're based out of Dallas. They have 4 airplanes, and somehow the app is able to connect the client to the operator themselves, and they go out about negotiating. Well, you go out about negotiating, but how do you know you got the best value? Because that's the only value you got. How do you know who these people are besides going on Google and looking at the review? Because that's all you can do, right? And then what happens is, over and over again, I see that clients come back to us and say, hey, we got burned by this operator. We got burned because we went directly to them. And what happens when I look at this situation that they're describing, that they got burned, and I decipher it by talking to the operator and talking to the client, I find out that there was just miscommunication. They did not understand each other. They just did. The operator has 4 airplanes, and they have to sell those 4 airplanes. And then at some point in time, that client becomes somebody that they don't really pay attention to as much. It's easier for them to bring a broker. And I'll give you a very good example.
Yes.
Very good client of mine chartered an airplane from Cairo to Santorini with a very well-known operator that we love, admire, and respect out of Egypt. What ended up happening was the jet that they chartered had a mechanical, so they had to use a turboprop. Well, they used the turboprop, they missed the slot. When they missed the slot, the client got upset. They had to depart 4 hours later. The client had a connection through to the Santorini airport manager. Well, the manager gave them false information, not on purpose, but he told them that, oh, how could they miss the slot? They could have done this, that, the other, and they should have made the flight. This was an easy deal. Well, that made him more angry, right? So when the King Air arrived, the turboprop arrived to pick them up, he goes, well, this is a smaller airplane. He goes, yes, I understand, but the jet broke. It happens, mechanicals happen. Well, they got to Cairo from Santorini 4 hours late, and he disputed the flight. Well, he did dispute the flight, and they agreed on a sum that should have been refunded. But now you're talking a Middle Eastern bank that wants to transfer the money to an American bank. And it did not make sense. And it took months for them, and they could not communicate. There was a cultural difference. They couldn't get the money back. So when we arrived in this whole situation, in the middle of this process, we're like, okay, we understand exactly what happened. You are not getting the right information. It is not the operator's fault. They are our main operator. We love them. I've had a 15-year relationship with them. It took one email to the VP, and the VP explained to me that the bank that they transfer the money from is the same bank that they're trying to transfer the money to, and that bank is not accepting the money. Well, the client had no idea. So we got involved. We had the money transferred. We transferred the money to the client, and the next charter that went through with this operator, we told them, listen, we transferred on your behalf to the client. Here's $9,000. We'll figure it out for our next charter. And that was an easy peasy process. Everybody was happy. And guess what? The client's back this summer using the same aircraft, same operator, all kumbaya, everybody is in love. So if you want to bring more algorithms and you want to bring some sort of an app where you connect the operator to the client who is a high net worth individual, I do not think he's got the time to sit there and sort through an airplane while he's going on a vacation with his family. You know, they work 90 hours a week. This is summertime. She doesn't have the time to look at all these things. So you need a broker. And I'm glad that these guys went out there and exposed the industry to these high net worth individuals, where they got to know about the industry, and they had to learn about the industry the hard way, but it made the broker look even better. So I'm happy. Go out there, do more algorithms, do more apps, and give me more business. I'm ready.
Very interesting. I love this story. I love this perspective. So you highlighted how important is the role of the aircraft charter broker. But at the same time, we all know that the barrier of entry into the aircraft charter brokerage industry is very low. Anyone, literally anyone with a laptop, an internet connection, and very little aircraft charter brokerage knowledge can start a new business in this area tomorrow. But at the same time, we see that aircraft charter brokerage is more complicated than the real estate brokerage. The real estate broker need education, need training, need a license to do his job. But this is not required for the aircraft charter broker. So do you see that the industry should change that?
The only way the industry should even try to mandate a change is by educating people. The bedroom charter brokers have caused what harm to the industry? I see somebody young that has been exposed to some sort of corporate aviation, and they have a laptop, and what they're doing is they're able to figure out an operator, negotiate on behalf of the client, add a little bit to it, and build their clientele. In the end, they become, more than a bedroom broker. I'll tell you a secret to the industry. I know of big broker, really, really big brokers that go out there and hire bedroom brokers because they don't want to put somebody on payroll. So they themselves are doing it. Now, the education should be implied on the part of clientele on behalf of NBAA and eBase and others to tell them, what is a broker? What is the definition of a broker? Okay, does the broker operationally control an airplane? No. How much insurance does the broker carry on them? If something were to happen to you, what is the broker going to do? And I learned that by making my first mistake. I remember the very early on in my company as a charter broker, I had this gentleman whose G4 broke, and he was like, Kevin, I have a mechanical. I'm in California. I'm trying to go to Aspen. Get me an airplane. I'll pay the money, take my credit card, and arrange something for me. And I was able to find him a Lear 60. But when the captain showed up, the captain goes, I'm not taking a passenger. And I'm like, what is the reason? And she goes, weight and balance. Got too much luggage. I'm going to have to cancel this flight. And they left the client there. And for the first time I realized, this is about 15 years ago, by the way. For the first time I realized how limited I was in my powers to represent my client. and what a disservice I did to them by representing them. I had no way, although my company was successful, how different was I from a bedroom broker at that very moment? What could I have done? The captain made the final decision, left my client, who was extremely unhappy, got left behind, nobody's fault. They had a mechanical problem. They needed a last minute airplane. I found an airplane, the only available airplane. The captain made a decision. So what is it that you can do as a broker? You need to realize your own limitations. And your limitations are that you have to read about the industry and educate yourself to a degree that you are able to keep this industry safe. And you must let people know over and over again, by any means possible, on your quotes, on your contracts, on your emails, on your advert, that you have no operational control over the airplane that you're brokering, and you must be very honest about it. And you have to be very honest with your client. If you find out that that operator has had incidents, accidents, to what degree? And you should be able to say this to your client, that I don't trust this operator. I'm sorry. This is the only one available, but you should know that they have, they've had accidents because of whatever reasons. And so, I will tell you no. I will tell you that you should not go with that. So, what does a bedroom broker bring? This is somebody that's trying to strive in an industry that doesn't really have any barriers to entry. Well, how do you create the barrier? Well, maybe what we should do is have NBAA present a program where you can, for $1,000, $1,500, attend a class. And ACA, Air Charter Association out of UK, they're offering classes for brokers. So it doesn't feel like you just bought a laptop and you started. Okay, you bought a laptop and you started. That's an investment, $1,100 for a MacBook or whatever that you bought, into business cards and pamphlets and a website. But go out there, be able to buy yourself a 7-day course in London or Vegas at the next NBAA event. So there is no differentiation that you are any less, but you should be able to educate yourself as a young person or whoever that is coming into the industry, thinking that they could do this just with a laptop.
This makes a lot of business sense, Kevin. But originally you're a pilot, you are an aviator, a technical aviation professional, and you moved to being a business person, an aviapreneur. Why did you make that transition?
So I missed my calling for the airline. And my first job was in 1999, flying a beach jet out of Dallas Love Field for a high net worth individual in oil business. And the allure of just, being in a private jet back in the late 90s, flying all over Central America, it took me away from the airline style of flying, because 9/11 happened and, they were not making any money. Nobody was hiring. So I got stuck in this whole allure of flying billionaires around in nice little shiny jets and going to Europe and all the islands. But then I suddenly realized that this is all I knew. I just knew how to fly an airplane. I didn't have anything to fall back on. And every year that you went out there and got your medical, it was like a Russian roulette. You didn't know if you were going to pass, what kind of problems you would carry, and if you did not get your medical, what would end up happening to you. There was no backup plan. So when I started flying the private jets into the Middle East, I started acquiring these knowledge about how to get the permits, how to set up flight planning, how to set up handling, what is VAT, what is mineral oil taxes, what are permit slots and CTOT, things that we didn't really care or know much about when you were just flying domestically in the US, the Caribbean, or anywhere else. So then I thought to myself that I must start something that I know about and I can be successful in. And if someday I can't fly or I decide to hang my pilot hat, I can come back and still be a part of this industry, make it better, and enjoy it even more.
So you moved from being a customer to this industry to starting a business in it. This is a very interesting story.
Yeah, thank you.
And did you have all the skills? Did you find that you have all the skills you need to run and grow a successful business?
No, actually, I did not know what I was getting into. I kind of just, bumbled into it. And then it was like drinking through a fire hose. It was very difficult. I did not know how to run a business. I thought because I knew how to fly an airplane, or I knew a bit about flight planning, and I knew about the fuel vendors, I thought I will be able to just create this and people will just come in and buy my product just because they were friends with me or they flew another private jet. And I could not have been more wrong. It was a very difficult event for me. It was a rude awakening for me to find myself trying to be a leader, to find myself going from a pilot whose sole job is decision making. You know, you earn your entire life's paycheck in that 1 second where you get to make the right decision, where you save your life and save the lives of the others, and then see another day to fly the airplane if EASA or FAA lets you fly again. You know, so decision making is a continuous process for us as a pilot. You're no longer an aviator. You know, those days of just enjoying it are gone. There are so many calculations you have to do. You have to make sure that you're safe. The skies are getting crowded. The lateral separation between the airplanes and the vertical separation between the airplanes is getting narrower. The equipment's better. You're flying faster, you're flying quicker, but you're flying together a lot closer. So a lot more decisions to be made. I don't think that in any way, shape, or form helped me become a businessman. You know, a lot of people think great businessmen make great politicians, and all great businessmen fail as politicians. Politics is a different status quo altogether. That's a learned, philosophical, lawyer type of person. A businessman is a businessman. Can't lead a country. And being a pilot, the only thing similar to business that I could draw in from my experience being a pilot was decision making. But the decision making as a pilot was more cut and dry because somebody taught you. Every 6 months you went to the simulator, there was V1 cuts, there were engine fires, there were things that you were taught, and there were mentors out there, there were people that would tell you what to do, there were checklists, there were education given to you by the manufacturer. In business world, it's dog-eat-dog. It's a little bit different.
But now, after 12 years of starting Icarus Jet, you have learned it. You have learned it the hard way, and you already made it big. So now I'm sure all the listeners are waiting for the most interesting part of this episode and every episode. You have made a big success. You have achieved so much in your career. What advice, what recommendations do you give to the listeners of AVIAPRENEURS podcast on how to follow that success and how to make it big themselves in this beautiful industry?
The notion that anybody is big or going to get big is incorrect. You can only do one thing in business. And if you want to be successful, is you need to plant an idea. You cannot build, you can only plant. When you build something, it has limitations. A building has a limitation. It begins and ends someplace. But when you plant something, that's growth. When you plant something, it is for the future generation. The mistakes that I made are tremendous. Remember, we think we are borrowing time to turn that into profit. You're not borrowing time. Time is priceless. My son is 10 years old. My daughter is 6. And I've been gone half their life trying to create something that I think will be very successful in the very near future. Aviation is a curse to many people in the sense it is a curse of people that get left behind. The wife, the kids, the mother, the father, the friends, the things that you do not see. So yeah, Champs-Élysées in Paris is great for the Promenade d'Anglais in Nice it's great to see in Antibes while you're sitting there. But remember the people that got left behind. Remember that the time is the most important thing for you, and how you spend it, how you invest it. You have to be very careful. Don't just invest all your time in trying to be some successful man in the future. You have to be at the same time a good father, a good brother, a good friend, a good human being. So don't forget that. Give up often. Why do I say give up often? From my childhood, the notion was don't ever give up. My father used to say, you can't give up. You got to be the best at this. And suddenly you realize that in this finite time that you have on this planet, you cannot be everything. So to find out what you're good at, you're going to have to give up something. And the other advice I'd give to every entrepreneur out there, that read at least one book a week. And what I would recommend are 4 books that I picked, Dr. Baranbo.
Interesting.
The most important.
What are they? How to say it?
How to say it. A lot of times when we're asking our clients or vendors or banks for something, a favor, or how we speak to our employees, how we speak to our chief operating officer or chief executive officer, how we speak to a vendor, how you get angry, how you describe yourself on an email. It's very important. You just need few words to exactly describe your emotions, or to ask for something, to describe how you love someone. That's very important. But this is one book that I'll recommend for anybody, and keep it close to you. You know, so How to Say It was one. When you have a team, when you start a business, you will face problems.
The 5 instructions
of a team. It's one of the greatest books that I've read.
It's a good story.
Absolutely. The other book, Your Next 5 Moves.
Great strategy book.
And for all of you out there that are going to start a new business, I wish you the best of luck. Never lose heart, never lose hope. But remember, education is everything. And this is one of the greatest books of all.
1-page marketing plan.
Yes, you must buy this book now and read it. So these are the 4 books that I would tell you to read. And last but not the least, Dr. Baranbo, the most important thing as a founder of a company is you are just like Captain James T. Kirk from Star Trek. You're not the fastest, you're not the most intelligent, you're not the smartest, you're not the strongest, but you are the leader of some of the most strongest people, the most intelligent, smartest, and the fastest people. So as long as you can learn to be a leader of some of the most astonishing, great human beings on this planet, you can have a successful company.
I love it.
But you have to learn to be a leader. To be a leader is to wake up and create and enforce the culture of your company. The culture of my company is honesty to its clients. You mess up, you fess up. You tell them honestly what happened. You tell them the truth. I screwed up. I am the reason why that airplane's not there. I am the reason why the airplane is dispatched to the wrong airport. I am the reason why the fuel is late. I am the reason. I am the
responsibility.
You have to. The newest culture that I have implemented in my company is perfect failure. Well, what is perfect failure? You fail, we all fail as human beings. But when you fail so perfectly that we never fail again. We learn from it. We insert that failure in our database and we educate ourselves. We discuss that failure. I dispatched an airplane to the wrong airport. And when my client landed, I was on a vacation with my kids in Cabo. And when he told me where he was, I couldn't move. That was me. I blundered in sending my client to a wrong airport. And so, did I fail perfectly? You bet. I wrote about it. I confessed. I called on meetings. I went beyond the mea culpa. I went beyond just refunding money and trying to make them happy at the moment. I made them realize the pain that I caused as somebody that they had trusted. And then I went back and reverse engineered of how I made the mistake, and I made it public. And I made sure that that failure was a perfect failure, and that's how you grow.
So actually you have failed forward, as they say.
The failure is the failure in leadership. When you fail to uplift your employees, when you fail to see the pain that they're going through. Maybe it's their meager pay. Maybe it's the unhappiness in them. Maybe it's the working hours. And that's where I have failed in the past. I've failed with my employees tremendously at times. I have failed to realize the sacrifices that they have made to make my company where it is. Failed to acknowledge it at many times. But I have corrected myself and I've gone back. And as long as people can forgive you, that's something that you as a leader need to be able to achieve. Yeah.
Thank you, Kevin. I really appreciate your time, sharing your experience and knowledge and what you have done and learned over the year. Great pleasure talking to you.
Thank you, Dr. Baranbo. It was a great opportunity and really great speaking to you. And I hope I get to see you soon.
Definitely you will. I look forward to that. Thank you, fellow AVIAPRENEURS. I'm sure you have learned a lot like I did talking to Kevin. Let's go ahead and fail perfectly like Kevin told us. I look forward to seeing you again next week with a new episode of AVIAPRENEURS podcast and another great AVIAPRENEUR.